Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. I think it's going to be a hot day today. My Dharma talk is based on some conversations that we've had in previous Dharma talks and weeks when people asked, hey, why do you practice? What sustains you to keep coming back to practice? And I answered that, I think, after my last Dharma talk in an ad hoc way, but I really started thinking about why I started practicing, what sustained my practice, what keeps me practicing, and how that's evolved over the years. So, and I know, I didn't think that much about it, but it seems to be of interest. So these are the vows that compel me to practice. So today I wanted to explore the living tension between two questions that often surface in our practice. Why do we sit, and why do we vow? These questions may seem separate, but they are deeply interconnected. Two wings of the same bird. In Zen, vow and practice do not stand apart. They are the cadence of our awakening. We end many of our services with the four bodhisattva vows. Beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable, I vow to become it. These vows are paradoxical, they are impossible, and yet we vow. Eihei Dogen, the founder of the Soto school in Japan, reminds us that to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. This is the ground of vow. We do not vow to perfect the self. We vow to forget it. In taking the precepts or sitting in Zazen, we are not making a list of goals to check off. We are stepping into a life that is bigger and more expansive than our own. When I took Jukai, formally receiving the lay precepts, I was told that I would break the vows constantly, and that's true. But it wasn't discouraging, it was liberating, because the vow is not about perfection. It's about return, about remembering and being aware. As Dogen says in the Kaiyo Jukai Man, which translates to instructions on giving and receiving the precepts, Dogen says, these are not rules to follow. They are the life of Buddha, given to us freely. We don't take precepts to earn something. We live them because they are already true in us. We are already part of the Buddha's life, and vow helps us to remember our original self when we forget. When I first began sitting, it wasn't from a sense of clarity, it was from despair. A dark night of the soul, as some say. My mind raced, I was anxious, and sitting felt unbearable. But something kept bringing me back to the cushion. At first it was fear of sliding back into depression. Later it was curiosity. Eventually something deeper took root, vow. Shunryu Suzuki Roshi once said, you may not attain it, but you can express it. We express the vow not because we are guaranteed success, but because in vowing, we align with something vast. We give form to the formless. Suzuki Roshi also said, to give your sheep or cow a large, spacious meadow is the way to control it. The vow is not a tight fence. It's a wide open field, a space big enough for our fear, our failure, our forgetfulness. The vow is what lets us fall down and get up again and again. I've come to see that even on the days when I feel completely lost, when I sit in confusion or fatigue, I am still held by the vow. It is not just something I once took. It is something that now resonates as me. The meal gatha, for example, becomes a living vow. We eat to stop all evil, to practice good, to liberate all beings, and to accomplish the Buddha way. Every time I chant it, I remember why I eat, why I sit, why I bow. It's not just ritual, it's relationship, it's vow, lived and lived for others. Zen holds the view that there is no fixed self, no separate being, no dust to wipe away. And yet we take up the vow to liberate all beings. Hui Nguyen, the sixth patriarch of Zen, embodied this paradox. In the Platform Sutra, he says, good friends, originally delusion has no shape or form. It is only because of your thoughts that there is confusion and delusion. If you separate from deluded thoughts, wisdom is self-present. If your own mind is fundamentally pure, all things are pure. This is the heart of no mind. When we realize there is no fixed boundary between self and other, there are truly no beings to save, because none are separate. And yet from that very realization, the vow to save all beings springs forth, not out of duty, out of intimacy, not out of grasping, but as a natural unfolding of awakening. We vow not because something is wrong, but because we are complete. Vow is not a solemn promise made once in a ceremony. It's a living expression that evolves with us. It grows. It gets convoluted. It gets hidden and lost. It reveals itself again. We sit zazen not because we are already clear, but because something in us yearns for innate clarity. And even when that clarity never comes, still we sit, still we vow. Suzuki Roshi said, when you forget your practice, it forgets you. But when you remember it, it remembers you. So why do we practice? Because of vow. And why do we vow? Because we practice. They are not separate. They are how the Buddha way breathes through each of us, step by step, breath by breath. The vow cannot be kept, and still we vow. Our path cannot be finished, and still we walk. Because each return is our practice, each breath a vow. Okay, so that's been percolating in my mind for a while, so.
Answer.
Yeah. Hold on.
We got it.
With vowel and practice, in the sense that, you know, the vows that we try to fulfill, even though they're impossible, are eventually vows that we're doing to ourselves. Is it a sign of compassion in the sense that we first, in order to be compassionate to others through our vows and through our practice, we have to be compassionate to ourselves? And that together makes the practice and the vows one thing, because I heard this from somewhere, and I don't remember who it was. It may have been Shahako Gamura said it, but that bowing is training our bodies in our practice, and our vows and the bowing put the whole thing together. But we do it because we are being compassionate to ourselves, and being compassionate to ourselves, we can be compassionate to everybody we encounter who is also part of ourselves. Is that along the lines of what you were talking about?
No, but it's still correct. You know, I mean, it's fundamental. You know, vow and practice are like flesh and bone, form and emptiness. You know, vow early in my practice was, you know, the tendon that held everything together for me. I would wonder why I did it, and then I would say a vow, and it was meaningful. So the compassion was toward me. Yeah, thank you.
Just like the vow and practice are like flesh and bone.
Yeah, I mean, you feel it viscerally. So each one, you know. Questions? Mr. Middlebrook?
There we go.
Excuse me. These vows. Now, are we taking these vows internally? Are we saying these to our Sangha? Are we talking with these about to our teacher? Where are these vows made?
Well, all of them. You're taking the vow to the universe, but you're taking it to yourself. It's the most intimate of vows. But at the same time, you're doing it publicly, so you will adhere to these vows. Okay, you're doing it in front of your Sangha, so they'll hold you to the vow.
So we hold ourselves, the Sangha, we hold ourselves to the Sangha.
Yeah?
We hold ourselves to the three treasures, essentially, and the teachers. So we hold ourselves accountable for the whole of everything.
Of course, that's all you have. You hold yourself accountable, we hold ourselves accountable, and we hold each other accountable. That's Sangha.
So it's more vast than just, well, I better do this right because everyone's watching me, so I will do this.
Well, you know, that's the way it starts in your small mind, and
Yes.
you know, that's the fear. And then the fear goes away, and then you grab onto something, those words, the vow. And then that vow becomes habitual through practice. And then it just becomes who you are, right? And now you've been practicing a long time, right? There's no practice, there's no vow, you know, there's no mirror, there's no dust.
Exactly. Like Mike was saying, we're training the body by vowing. We train ourselves by all this repetition, but letting it flow into our system, ingraining it into our bones, into our blood, into our actions. We are training ourselves in a very, very comprehensive way.
Yeah, we train ourselves every day. That's the practice. It's mastery. We sit every day, and it's like sharpening a blade. We take cut every day, and then we have a beautiful blade to cut through delusion, right? And that's the practice. That's you know that is the
Yes.
practice, and the vow brought us to the practice. It's just this giant circular reference, right? So it sort of makes sense, like a box and its lid to me.
Yeah.
It's a very compact package.
Well, I think it's something to really kind of talk about and think about, because this is something we develop on kind of a very fundamental level. And I think it might be really good for people just starting out to understand that it takes, like, you get a baseball glove when you're a kid, and it's hard and it's tough, and you think, I'll never be able to catch a ball in this, but it's your friends and they're all beating it up, freezing it, putting leather softener on there, if they have that sort of thing. So we toughen ourselves and we soften ourselves at the same time.
Yeah.
Right, and then it becomes ingrained in on a cellular level, right? And then it becomes rote, and then within time, it's like your body knows, right? Like on a within your soma, right? That you just know. There's a knowing, right? But it's you just sit daily or weekly or however it is on the cushion, and then like what Mike was saying, when you bow, there's just an intrinsic cellular kind of thing that your body knows, but it's over time, right? Sitting on the cushion, and that knowing comes into your being. But it's you just have to sit, right?
Talk goes only so far in this thing. Training your body means your mind will follow.
Right? Well, Jane has something to say.
Talk is cheap.
I just want to say, Spencer, that was an excellent talk, a really good talk.
Thank you.
Caused my mind to turn over a lot in thinking. But I was just going to add that when you're practicing with Val, I think first you're practicing with everything somebody says to you. Do this, do that. Do it like this, do it like that. But when you jump off the 100-foot pole, you have nobody telling you what to do except Val keeps it marking, and you're practicing in the dark during this time. And that's when the Val becomes really important, I think. But I just wanted to ask you one question. You mentioned something about expressing yourself in the Dharma, a quote from Suzuki Roshi or somebody. I forget exactly what you said.
I think there were two quotes from Suzuki. I liked one because it reminded me of Dogen's quotes on the service.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? If you could,
Oh, I had a
if
thought.
you could hear. Okay.
Maybe they can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Is it just me?
Yes, Beth.
Okay. Should I share? I'm not sure.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please.
Something I really appreciate about vowing is, as Spencer, you mentioned the paradoxical nature of it, that it is aspirational and impossible,
Right.
and yet it's a reminder that there are ways of understanding that are beyond a current understanding. So for me,
Right.
implicit inside of it is a reminder to have beginner's mind, because I can't imagine saving all beings, and yet I'm vowing this way of, I don't know how it could possibly happen, and yet that is my aspiration. And so it's a reminder to continually reflect on the edges of what I know and understand, on the edges of certainty, which I really appreciate. And I think that then extends to the physical practice, because every time we sit down, there is no certainty in that moment of what may or may not transpire, how it may or may not feel, what we may or may not, how we may or may not feel about the experience of sitting. And so I couldn't quite hear Jane's question. I think it was something to the effect of, how do you express the Dharma in the dark? Or
Yeah.
was that it?
Yeah.
And for me, the dark is that unknowing space, expressing the aspiration inside of an unknowing space, and dedicating myself within the unknowing. So that was my thought.
I don't have the answer to it, but I think it's somewhere away from language. It's just my general thought. So,
It was a good talk, Spencer. Very good talk.
well, let me just say one thing about paradox. And, when I first started, when I took the precepts, I was very literal. Oh, don't kill, don't have sex, don't do drugs, don't elevate and blame. And then over the years, I saw the spectrum of all of these, all the facets of sexuality, all the facets of killing, all the facets of relationship and blaming and lying. And it's infinite. Each one of these vows is infinite. And we're going to break them all the time, because we're not necessarily going to murder somebody, and we're not going to open a brothel, okay? But we want, right intention and right action, right deed, and we want to manifest these through mindfulness. And that's all done through vow, because vow is the hook that keeps seeding us and bringing us back. So, and that's the paradox of it, is and in a nascent practice, you'll keep breaking it and get frustrated. And the vow is your earth, it's terra firma. It's what brings you back to the practice. So.
Rachel?
Thank you. It's freezing occasionally on my screen, so wave at me or something if I vanish. Thank you,
Okay.
Spencer.
You're
Especially
welcome.
at the beginning, when you referred to the vow and a fraught moment of darkness. Do you not think that sometimes there can be moments where you do not recall the words, but you find yourself in the posture, and that your body almost takes a listening or vowing position, and you're not, saying the vow, but that it does, as you said, it expresses itself, and you simply find it being done, even when the words are completely fail you, because words are failing you at that moment.
Yeah. After practicing this long, I feel the vow before I say the vow, because the vow is a part of me. So I could feel a spaciousness in my heart. If I'm saying something that's egotistical or hatred, I feel it before I say the vow that I broke in my mind. And, the Bodhisattva vow, as my practice has progressed and I've changed, has really become the essence of who I am. And I didn't understand the manifestations of the Bodhisattva vow within us, but I find the Bodhisattva vow to be the most compelling vow and force for me. And it is innate and unsaid and ingrained and in my DNA now. And I'm thankful for that. So I think the other vows live within us too. And we just do good, and we do good for others, and create better karma, and that's really our path. It's our practice. So, and the dark night, that whole without a vow, because you don't have anything but your rumination and emotion. When you're going through that in an early practice. It's torturing, sitting can be torturous, but vow is very tangible at that time. It has form. It took form for me. It took form, and then I let it go. So it was really, vow is a beautiful thing because it asks nothing. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. And that's really our mission on this planet, and why we it's when you see yourself compassionately, then the world opens up compassionately. And conversely, it's true too, as we currently see with our government, right? So when compassion closes.
Real quick. It seems like with our practice, as we begin, we have intent and a determination to proceed along this way. But after we've done this for a while, we start to realize we don't need the intent anymore because it really is what we are. Stop trying. That's why the vows are impossible. It just means there's no end. You don't stop. You just keep going and going. But eventually you start to realize, wait a minute, this is the way I've always been.
I vow to attain it.
Yeah.
I vow to attain it. We keep trying. And at the beginning, we don't know. We don't know. It's tangible, it's egoic. And then it becomes
Us.
right? But it becomes less tangible, more ethereal. And then it just makes sense that this was the Dharma, and this is now your Dharma, our Dharma, everyone's Dharma.